laser engraving flood fill. Well, you see, I've been doing a little bit of experimentation I have with flood fill using LIGHTBURN software and the Raise 5 20-watt laser, but also my new B1 40-watt laser. They're both made by Longer, and they're both supplied to me by Longer. I didn't pay for them. That's, they just supplied to me. No money has exchanged hands, but technically, I suppose it is a sponsored video. But with this latest experiment, which I just performed, this one here on the B1 laser, it's a 40-watt laser, for which I had set at 40% power, okay, and at 100 millimeters per second. Both of them were. But I don't know if you can see that. They're slightly different. And there's a reason for that. It's because I use one setting different on each of them, called flood fill. Now, the flood fill does give you a much faster burn. I say much faster. It was a few minutes quicker than using it without flood fill. But the flood fill one, as you can see, is actually darker. I think you're just about to see that. Than the one without the flood fill. Now, this one here, which I did using the Ray 5 laser, 20-watt laser, and that was done at 70% power at 100 millimeters per second. So this, the speed is the same, but the power is obviously a bit more because it's it's a lower power laser, so I had to up it a bit. But this one's done without the flood fill setting, but also, I don't know if you can see this, it's a more uniform burn than these two. That might be because this has been sitting around for a week or so, or about a week. This has been sitting around. It might be because of that, and this one's still a little bit warm, and it's sticky, where the resins have been heated up basically, and it starts to bleed out of the grain. Like when you get a bit of wood and you leave it out for a bit, and resin starts dripping down the piece of wood. Well, then that's there's literally what's happened here. It's been heated up, and the resin has kind of glazed, so it feels sticky at the moment. They both do. So it might be because of that. So it might not even be relevant at this stage. But it's more about this setting called flood fill. Now, to get into flood fill, all right. Now I'm quite new to this laser burning and engraving lark, and as such, as I learn, I've been making videos to share with other people, and so far with the laser, the B1. I'm quite impressed with it. It was so easy. It seems to be a little bit quieter. Not a lot, but a little bit quieter. But also the motion of it is smoother. It just feels like a better machine altogether than the Ray 5. Although the Ray 5 is also a good machine. But it's definitely not as refined as the B1, which is that one there. Okay. It's a nice put together machine, and I did an assembly of this particular laser as well, and it went together so easily. There was a couple of little hiccups, but nothing to speak of really. So okay, I want to show you my settings I've been using, and okay, this is the LIGHTBURN software, and if you look in the layer section up the top here, you can see this little bar here in the layers. If you double click that, you'll get this window come up, which is your cut settings editor, and it's quite straightforward to work out what it actually is going on with it. If I could just move it a bit, there you go. So that's the cut settings editor, and there's up top here. It says up top is there. It says advanced and common. If you go into advanced, I click the right. I'm clicking my software instead of the actual LIGHTBURN software. There you go. If you go into advanced, you have this little box there that says flood fill, and you click that, and it changes the settings to flood fill, and it does speed things up. You're just basically telling the laser, I suppose, that this area here is all one, just black basically, or like a brown burn colour. So settings here, as you can see on this latest burn, were, if I can move it down, move it down. I can't move it. There you go. 100 millimeters per second at 60% power with the air assist on. So they were the settings I used on the LIGHTBURN software. There is my little test pattern. The circle here, although it looks just like a line drawing, is set to fill. So basically fills it all in, all one shade, you know, at the power and settings of the laser. So let's go back to me. So that is the result. So with flood fill, and you see it's darker and more uniform, and that's without flood fill. Both of them are done at the same power, and as you can see, if you look at the lettering, or without the flood fill, it hasn't burned as well. Now remember, this is Douglas fir, probably one of the worst woods to use for laser engraving. What I've found out so far, I just want to experiment with, because obviously I knew it was going to be a problem, because I just look at it, you know, it's full of resin. See this piece here, this piece of northern fir, that probably would burn a lot better, but it's still going to be an issue where the grain is. Well, those resin areas are not going to burn as well as the light areas, which is basically heartwood in between. Whereas when you look at this piece of chestnut, it's burned much more uniformly. And the same with the oaks and that what have you, because the grain structure is much better. Now, as you know, many people use laser engravers. They like to use it on birch plywood, but birch plywood's actually quite expensive, and if you can pick bits of wood up for very, very little money, and also it's nicer, to be honest. A bit of actual real wood is definitely a lot downside nicer than a piece of plywood, even if it is birch ply. And that's my feeling on it. So anyway, I just thought I'd just share that with you. I'd be interested to someone who hasn't done that before, and like I say, I'm learning all the time, to be honest. It's quite new for me. Started with the Raise 5, and I've got another laser coming very soon as well, a little 10-watt one. It's interesting to see how easy that is to set up. Anyway, you tell me, do you find that of interest? Probably not if you haven't got a laser, but you know, it's amazing what you can do these days. It really is. I need a 3D printer now, don't I? It's time for me to go, so I'm going to say toodaloo, you know, so toodaloo.